Yo, the three-team teaser came through for us last week. Unlike the last time we did that, when Dallas lost by 12. It should be that way, though, right? I mean, we had three solid favorites, teased them under a field goal. All of them won, which is good because not all of them covered the spread. So we covered our bases. We ate some chalk as well in week 8. Philadelphia Eagles, kind of a public spot there. Got there. Should have been more. They had 2 goal line fumbles. Could have put up 52 points despite the defense playing like garbage. Miami Dolphins minus 9.5. Lost on the Mike Tomlin home dog, though, and pushed on the Giants. Do you guys realize that the Giants had minus 9 passing yards as a team? And that game still went to overtime. We still didn't lose. I mean, that's a miracle in its own right. But we got 14 games for week 9. I'm Dave Lockren with Odd Shopper. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me today, and we're going to break it all down. We got 4 teams on bye. We got a fun game in Frankfurt, Germany between the Chiefs and the Miami Dolphins. We're going to hit on all of that. Brutal Thursday night football game, but you know what? There may be money to be made, and if that's the case, we're going to find our best spots for today. Dive into it right now. But first things first, hit that thumbs up. If you appreciate this type of free content, subscribe to the channel and follow me for any additional picks, any additional stuff. You want to shoot shit even on Twitter at Loughy_D, LOUGHY_D. Let's get into it. Kicking off week 9, we have a barn burner. Tennessee Titans on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers 2.5-point favorites. This game has a 36.5-point total. Quite frankly, I wouldn't blame anyone for betting the under on this game either. The funny thing about this year, we've been hitting a lot of unders, and a lot of them are coming through. Like the under in that Giants game was 36 or something, and they needed overtime just to get to 23. A lot of low totals every week again, and a lot of these games continue to go under. There's just somebody asked me this question, actually, Greg Ehrenberg, who does a lot of work here on the channel. Like, why do we see this? I think it's just because there's a lot of bad quarterbacks and a lot of bad offenses. It's not like defenses are better than we've ever seen. I think there's a lot of bad quarterbacks right now and a lot of bad offenses as a result. And this one is pretty similar, right? 36.5-point total. I'll tell you what, Will Levis looked nice coming off a 4-touchdown game. DeAndre Hopkins, welcome back to the NFL. I'm not buying into it this week, though. And you're still getting inside a field goal on the Steelers. Maybe this feels like a bit of a trappy line here. Mike Vrabel as a dog has, performed quite well himself, but they have not performed well on the road this year. They don't have a win yet. And the Steelers coming off a tough loss at home as a dog to the Jaguars. They need a win here to stay in contention in a tough NFC North. I look at this and I think to myself, like, yeah, no Minka Fitzpatrick, sure. But at the same time, this is an opportunistic defense. They still have some guys that can get to the quarterback. Will Levis, again, he's made 1 start. I'm not saying Kenny Pickens is the second coming of Joe Montana by any stretch. He's not. But they have some playmakers in this offense. Deontay Johnson is back. It's less me betting the Steelers and more fading Will Levis after that first game where it seems people are maybe a little bit too hyped on him for this one. So give me the minus 2.5. Also, if we're looking at any props for this one, we have some because it's Thursday. One that stood out to me, I went over to Odd Shopper real quick and just pulled these up. Jaylen Warren over 18.5 receiving yards. That looks like a pretty sexy spot this week. The Odd Shopper is market-based, so it's all of these bets when you're looking at plus EV are going to be evaluated in terms of what the market is doing and can we find exceptions to the rule against the sharp books and try and find that edge there, which over time is going to, make you money. But this one, whether you're doing it from just like an analytic base or market based, FanDuel at minus 114, you have 18.5 receiving yards. Jaylen Warren's been a guy that's gotten us there more times than not this season. They're still involving him in the passing game. So Jaylen Warren over 18.5 receiving yards right now looks pretty good to me. And if you're not on FanDuel, all these books that I mentioned throughout the show, feel free to take a look in the description or in the pinned comment. I threw the links to all of them. FanDuel right now, I think, bet 5 into 150 and get 3 free months of NBA League Pass. Pretty sweet, actually, if you're not there. But I'll mention a lot of different books because we want to shop the best odds. And if you're not on those, I threw it down there in the description and the pinned comment in case you want to sign up. Some of them have some really good offers right now. All right, give me Dolphins and Chiefs game that we could. This is a fun game. Not give me the Dolphins. Give me this game to talk about because it's fun. We're talking about a Germany game, so 9:30 Eastern time start for me. 51-point total, Chiefs laying 2.5. You know, you want to talk about a spot where every bit of you goes, that doesn't seem right. This is it. But like last week where we say, we knew the books were trying to get us to take the Eagles. We did it anyway. They got the 6.5-point cover if you watched early in the week before it moved to 7. You knew that once it moved through 9.5, like there was value on the Dolphins, but something seemed off. We still took the Dolphins. We had to. They got us there against the Patriots. I think I still have to take the Chiefs because it's Patrick Mahomes. He's not somebody he's not particularly great, this team, at covering when they're big favorites. But as small favorites, neutral stadium, obviously, as small favorites, I like that. I mean, how at this point, you guys tell me. Leave your favorite picks in the comments. I'm always reading them and trying to respond to them as well. Yes, Xavier Howard's expected to play. Jalen Ramsey is back. It really bolsters the defense. That is great. But it's still Patrick Mahomes, right? Coming off an ugly loss where he was dealing with the flu. First time they lost to the Broncos. We were on the Broncos, by the way, so we'll take that one to the bank. Not the money line, but we were on Broncos at +8.5. It moved to +7. Coming off an ugly loss to the Broncos, first time that they lost to them since 2015. I got to go Chiefs -2 here. It's the Patrick Mahomes factor. He's always going to keep them competitive. Whenever Patrick Mahomes has the ball, and assuming he's healthy after a week of being sick, whether this looks like a spot that we should take the Dolphins, I got to take the Chiefs at -2.5. What a fun game this is going to be, though. Finally, we get a good international game. Well, I guess Bills-Jaguars wasn't bad either, but this one is solid. All right, Chiefs and Ravens. Seahawks and Ravens. This is one that I truthfully do not have a good read on. Now, you're going to be able to find if you like the Ravens, you're going to find them in spots at -5.5. You're still going to find spots at 6 on the Seahawks. PointsBet has them at +6.5 if anybody bets there. But I think we'll go. I think this is, again, not one of my favorite spots. A lot of bets I like this week. This isn't one of them. The Ravens are a great football team. They've also been purely dominant, Lamar Jackson, against NFC opponents. It's now after last week and the week before that, 17-1 straight up. 17-1 straight up for Lamar Jackson against NFC opponents. It's absolutely insane. I'm doing this on the fly, trying to fix this. So let's see how we do. I don't know why it keeps going out on me. But yeah, I like Lamar Jackson here. I also think that, you got a Pete Carroll coach team getting 6 points in a big game. As I always say, metaphorical gun to the head, I would take the 6 with the Seahawks, but I have a lot of respect right now in Lamar Jackson. I have a lot of respect for this guy and the way that this Baltimore team is playing. They're at home. So I would say, worst case scenario, we go Seahawks, but let's just fade this and get to the next one because this is where things get really interesting. All right, so we got the Cardinals +7.5 against the Browns. You're not going to get Deshaun Watson here. It certainly doesn't look like it. Matter of fact, there's an 8. I'm looking on OddsShopper right now. There is an 8 on DraftKings, on Caesars, on a bunch of spots, 7.5 in some other spots. So I have a feeling that we're going to be looking at the 8 here because from everything we're seeing, it appears that Clayton Tune, 5th-round rookie, is going to be getting a start. Come on now. I know that PJ Walker isn't a stud. He's not good at all for that matter. But the Browns defense is still very, very talented. Guys, I have to lay this. Well, I'm sorry. If you wanted the Cardinals, you go 8. If you want the Browns, you're looking at the 7.5. I had that backwards for a second. Browns still at 7.5 on FanDuel. That's a good spot. That's a good spot. Still on Bet365, 7.5-point favorites. If Kyler Murray plays, he's still very rusty. You have to assume he's coming off an ACL. So that doesn't exactly kill this one way or another. But it looks like it's going to be Clayton Tune. Plus, Arizona has no incentive to rush Kyler Murray back right now. I mean, what's the point? They're not playing for anything outside of draft picks. This is a terrible football team. James Conner's still on the IR. They just got rid of Josh Dobbs, who I've said all season. I think Josh Dobbs had some admirable performances. You can say what you want. I'm not saying he's good, but in that offense, I think he performed better than anybody, including myself and any of you guys watching, probably expected. But I got to go Browns -7.5 here. I absolutely have to. And if there's one other spot we want to look at, pulling it up on OddsShopper, the Arizona Cardinals total points under 14.5. Assuming it's tuned, I like this. Now, again, market-based approach. This is by Sportsbook, so it's not just anywhere. On Caesars right now, they are minus 115. You look at the sharpest sportsbook out there, Pinnacle, minus 132, getting great value on this. Would you be surprised if the Cardinals scored less than 2 touchdowns in Cleveland against this Browns defense? I certainly wouldn't. That's actually one of my preferred spots this week. Looking like it's going to be Clayton Tune from what we've got reports out of Arizona. Under 14.5 points, getting reduced juice at minus 115 there compared to these other books. That's where I'm looking, along with Browns minus 7.5. Bears plus 7.5 at the Saints, 41.5 point total. Guys, look, I don't know. Tyson Bagent is not a world beater by any stretch. They're going to hype him up in any broadcast, especially on primetime football, because it's their job to do that. Shepherd University, look at this D2 guy go. But come on. Like, he is kind of who we thought he was, right? And can't really put up any significant points against a weak Chargers defense, middle of the road Chargers defense. I see this pretty simply as a stay away spot. If anything, I would take the 7.5 with the Bears because it's probably the smart play here, because Dennis Allen, one of the worst coaches against the spread in his tenure as a coach of any team. Derek Carr is a big favorite. We know how that ends almost all of the time. Last week they won, which was nice from a daily fantasy standpoint. I had a lot of Derek Carr stacks with Rashid Shaheed, so that paid off. But on the other hand, he's still horrible on the deep ball this season. They still rely too much on Alvin Kamara, and the Bears are terrible, but the Saints find ways to not cover these football games. It's that simple. So if I had to, Bears plus 7.5, but I don't have to, which means that I'm going to pick the games that we like, and hopefully you guys are going to do the same. Commanders are 3.5 point dogs against the Patriots. Man, I think this is one where I fall into the public, and I look like a sucker here. Now, like I've said a million times, one way to not be a sucker, even if you are one, is just always get the best odds. Always get the best odds, because if you're getting the best odds, eventually it's going to be profitable for you. So, for example, let's just say, like, out of every time you bet a game like this, you're betting the Commanders at +3, but there's +3.5s out there. You're just making critical mistakes. Like, let's say even if you're on the wrong side of that, you're making the wrong bet, all the sharp money is on the other side, at least you know you're getting the best number, right? Sharp money can be on a side, and so sharp money still loses the bet, right? We've seen the public actually have some pretty good results. There's 3s out there, there's 3.5s out there. And as always, if you're in Colorado, Virginia, New Jersey, Ohio, Iowa, or Kentucky, Bet365 has this at +3.5. And they're giving you $150 when you bet $5. Takes 2 minutes of your time to sign up. Doesn't matter if you win your bet or lose it. You bet $5, you get $150. It's literally that simple. You're making $75 a minute in the 2 minutes it takes you to do this. So even if you do lose this bet, you got $150 coming to you on the other side. You got to be 21 years or older to gamble. 18 plus in Kentucky. If you have a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. But here's why. By the way, link to that in the description and chat with the other sports books. It's a great offer. Here's why I say, though, that I might be on the wrong side, but it's the side I'm going to take. Commanders are coming off a game where Sam Howell looked good. They still lost, right? Does the public go, man, I like the Commanders here. They look good. Maybe. That's not why I think the Commanders are in play. First of all, Bill Belichick defense against Sam Howell, a guy that has just taken so many sacks, somehow not against Philly, which is insane, but so many sacks. New England's defense should come to play. I get all of that. Here's the issue that I have, because we're getting the Commanders outside of a field goal. We're getting them at +3.5. The biggest weakness they've had on defense all year, I've said this a million times, from a betting standpoint, from a DFS fantasy standpoint, they cannot prevent the deep ball. So obviously, you have busted coverage on Devontae Smith with a touchdown. A.J. Brown is a monster, just a monster of a human, making plays downfield, getting into the end zone. Who do the Patriots have? They don't even have Kendrick Bourne or Devontae Parker to do that. They're going to be relying on Demario Douglas, Juju Smith-Schuster, who's not a downfield threat by any stretch. How do they move the football? You know how the Patriots cover this game? Defensively. You get some strip sacks, you return them for touchdowns, you get some fortuitous breaks defensively, and you get in good field position. If not, though, I think this stays a low-scoring game, and I think the Commanders can do just enough with Sam Howell under center. Plus, the Patriots have the second fewest sacks in the league this year as well. I honestly, this is a spot where I go, screw it. I'll take the public side. Commanders plus 3.5 outside of a field goal, and I'll take under 41 because I think it's going to be an ugly, low-scoring game. And the biggest weakness the Commanders have, the Patriots don't have the personnel at wide receiver or specifically a quarterback to really exploit that. And with that in mind, give me the plus 3.5, give me under 41. And before you guys say anything, I know Chase Young is gone. He's on the Niners now. Montez Sweat is it with the Bears. What the hell did they do? Giving up second-round picks for Chase Claypool and now grabbing Sweat when they're out of content? Whatever. I understand all of that. I just have such little faith in Mac Jones, and that pass rush hasn't been great. That is why the Commanders would be my spot. So look, it's not lost on me. I know that they got rid of those guys, making some wholesale changes there, but I'll go Washington Commanders. Vikings 4.5-point dogs against the Falcons. Who knows which way this game is going to move? 37.5-point total. As it stands right now, I'm not touching it. It looks like Jaren Hall is going to start. Josh Dobbs was just signed by the Vikings, and as I've said, I think he did a fine job, to be fair, in a spot where he had no chance of really succeeding. We know he's not good, but he's better than Jaren Hall. He at least has experience. This guy's going to be lost in a game like this. But when do I ever have faith in the Falcons to cover a decent-sized number? I don't. I just simply don't. Honestly, if anything, I might wait for the. I'm not going to touch it. The Falcons have covered this number once all season, and that was week 1 against Bryce Young. And we know the first overall picks in their debut, who start immediately, have the worst record ever against the spread. Outside of that, Falcons win by game-winning field goals as time expires, or they just lose. Stay away from this one and get to some games we like. Bucks at the Texans. All right, so this is going to be a total play for me. All right. Bucks are 2.5-point dogs against the Texans. I think the smart bet here is probably the Bucks. We've seen CJ Stroud in this offense start to regress a little bit, start to come back down to earth. Not a huge surprise. You're talking about a rookie on a team that all in all has been garbage over the past several years, right? Better than Davis Mills, but how good is he? Last week they lost. The defense still held up, though. They still held up. What was it, a 13-12 game or something? They still should have won that game as well. Game-winning field goal for the Carolina Panthers gets them their first win of the season, coming off a bye, all that good stuff. Fine. But I like the under in this game. It's very difficult to have any faith in Baker Mayfield right now. Houston's defense has certainly not been the big issue. It's been, over the last couple of games for them, it has been the offense. And if the offenses on both sides are underwhelming, I like the under in a spot like this. We saw 28 total points in the last game for them. We saw 33 total points against New Orleans. We saw 40 against Atlanta. That would have pushed 36 against Pittsburgh. The last 4 games have all gone under this specific number. Granted, it's not apples to apples here, but you guys get the point. Neither offense is playing well right now. Both teams have solid enough defenses. The Bucs have been playing to unders all season long, and I think that continues on Sunday afternoon. Give me the under 40 between this Bucs and Texans game. Rams and Packers. All right, 40-point total here. Not a favorite game. You guys can tell from the way I'm talking. If I say not a favorite game, I don't really like it. Okay, it's pretty self-explanatory. This is one where I would say I'm leaning Rams +3 because I have such little faith in Jordan Love. Guys, last week I was like, I think I might actually back Jordan Love a little bit here. Against the Vikings coming off a huge primetime win over San Francisco. I might do it. I think I'm going to do it. And my God, did that not turn out the way we wanted. Okay. This team is rough right now. But, the Rams got blown out. First time all season, they've really gotten torched. They'd hung in there. Sean McVay's Rams had hung in there. I think it hurts him too, losing Kyron Williams. He had been an engine on this team. But teams have found ways to kind of shut Cooper Kupp down. Packers secondary is good. They're pretty much healthy. I still think this game is close, though. If you can find any 3.5s out there, that would be a spot that I would actually love to get to, as a matter of fact. But the reason, because it's at 3, I don't love it. So I'd go Rams +3 here. But for those reasons, if you can find a 3.5, that's a spot that I'd like to get to. Aside from that, though, I'll be looking elsewhere. I will say one more thing, though. And there are some 3.5s out there. I'm looking on OddsShopper right now, but smaller books. If you guys are getting into touchdown props, I was looking at end zone targets this year. Romeo Doubs leads the league in end zone targets. It's crazy. And he's second in touchdowns on end zone targets to only Courtland Sutton. Doubs has 10 targets in the end zone. 5 of them have been touchdowns. So we'll see what those touchdown props look like. We don't have anything for Sunday, but something to keep an eye on. Like I said, on Twitter, I'm going to throw something out there. So Loughy_D again, if you guys want to hit me up over there and stay tuned for that. But we'll lean Rams +3. Let's talk about Colts and Panthers. I know there's going to be a good amount of sharp money on the Panthers this week. This might be another spot where I fade that. The problem is, even with the changing offensive coordinator, they go out and get the win. But truly, how impressive was this Carolina team? Not much, right? Yeah, Bryce Young was efficient, I guess. 22 for 31, 235 through the air with a touchdown. It's a 15-13 game. Okay, it's a 15-13 game at home coming off of a bye. I'm not sold yet. If you are, go for it. Another way to play this is just not play it at all. If you want to use the wait and see approach, I get that. But Carolina's run defense has been terrible on all fronts. You may not be a believer in PFF grades, no big deal. But if you are, they rank 32nd in the league in run defense this season. If you wanted to just look at the basic rushing stats on defense for the Carolina Panthers, it's not good. They're allowing 4.7 yards per attempt. They've coughed up 14 rushing touchdowns, which is second worst in the league. Across the board, this team has really struggled to prevent the ground game. And you've got Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss. I mean, both of them healthy now. The 140 yards per game on the ground. I don't think you have to lean on Gardner Minshew that much in a spot like this, right? I think you can go Zach Moss, Jonathan Taylor, and grind this game out against the Panthers run defense that has really struggled. On the other side, it's like Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders, who's effectively been phased out of the offense after getting a great contract. I will lay the 2.5 on the Colts here inside a field goal. I'll roll the dice and see where they land. I just don't have enough faith in the Panthers right now to bet them, despite them coming off their first win of the year with the new offensive coordinator. All right, how about this one? Cowboys and the Eagles. Divisional spot. Cowboys coming out off a blowout win against the Rams. Eagles, more shooting themselves in the foot. But they still won. They still put up 38 points. There's talk of A.J. Brown being the best receiver in the league right now. I'm an Eagles fan. I still go to Tyreek Hill. They're different types of receivers. Tyreek Hill's my guy, though. But A.J. Brown's been that good. Just broke the record for stupid stat, but most games consecutively with 125 plus receiving yards. Broke Calvin Johnson's record. No one's going to remember that, but whatever. I would lay the 3 on the Eagles here, though. And the reason is I still believe that they're going to find ways to clean up the issues, clean up the problems. Kenny Gainwell, goal line fumble. Jalen Hurts, goal line fumble on a kind of a botched snap there. They should have had 52 points in that game. Now, the defense struggled. Sam Howell has kind of had their number, but they still covered if you got him at 6.5. Think about that for a second. Sam Howell had a career game. They allowed 31 points. They had 2 goal line fumbles, and they still covered. I don't know what more I need to say in a spot like this. It's a weird divisional spot. Last year, it didn't really mean much because neither of them had either one of them didn't have a starting quarterback when they played, one in each game. Eagles at home, though. Eagles at home. I think they clean the problems up. I could honestly see this being a game where the Eagles rout them or where they lose outright. But if you're asking me, hey, where are you going here? I'm leaning Eagles -3 and over 46. Eagles -3 and over 46 for this game. All right, let's talk Giants and Raiders. This is why you guys came, right? The only reason you're watching this video is so we can talk about the Giants and the Raiders, I would imagine. That's the only game you guys care about. But in all seriousness, they just got rid of Josh McDaniels as their head coach. That was a long time coming. He stunk, man. Devontae Adams is as disgruntled as it gets. They also canned their offensive coordinator. And then on the other side, Daniel Jones may or may not play. I don't know. I'm still laying the 2 on the Raiders here. 37.5 point total. I think the under looks good in a spot like this for sure. Under, and we've been going under on Giants games a lot now because I actually don't think their defense is that bad. Their defense is playing well. They limited to the Jets. I get it. Zach Wilson led Jets. That's why we like the under and why we like the Giants last week, albeit it pushed in overtime, because the Giants defense hasn't been bad. Their offense is just dog shit. They literally had -9 passing yards last game. Darren Waller led the team with 1 reception for 4 yards. Let that sink in, guys. That's insane. I got to go Raiders at home, though. Coming off these big changes in the coaching positions, you would hope that they just lean heavily on Josh Jacobs and Adams, and they figure something out. But hey, let's be honest. We liked the Lions in that game because they're coming off a brutal loss in Baltimore. They're at home. Raiders traveling. It was a bad spot. It's set up poorly for the Raiders. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to the Raiders here at -2. I still think that's a very reasonable number. You win by a field goal here. It might, by the way, it might not be Daniel Jones. It might not be Tyrod Taylor. So then it gets even worse for this team. I like this number one way or another, but if it ends up being Tommy DeVito, man, then you love the Raiders here, regardless of who they have at coach or at quarterback. Let's get into the Bills and the Bengals here. All right. 48.5 point total. Bills +2.5. Bengals actually opened as dogs. That would have been a great spot to get them. But I just still think inside of a field goal at home, you go to the Bengals. Are we at a point now where we can say Joe Burrow is back? I think the answer is yes. I think Joe Burrow is officially back. We saw that against the 49ers. Joe Burrow looks officially back. And the defense for this Buffalo Bills is in some real trouble right now. They've got some significant injuries. And you know what? You could be like, yeah, but they haven't even coughed up that many points recently. Well, they kind of have. I mean, maybe not against Tampa, but that Tampa offense is bad. They lost to the Patriots outright, allowed Mac Jones to have his best game of the season, and that's a bad offense in New England. Now you're going up against Burrow and Chase and T. Higgins, and even without Joe Mixon being productive behind that offensive line, I'm not sure it matters. Backing the Bills right now feels like a fool's errand. And, you know, if you don't like the Bengals, I would recommend just fading this game instead of backing the Bills. Unless this moves to like 3, then maybe you grab the Bills. But right now at -2.5, maybe it feels a little bit trappy. Like, hey, why haven't they moved this game to 3? I'd still go Bengals -2.5 in primetime. Joe Burrow looks back. And if that's the case, you know, I mentioned earlier in the year that he was 1 for 10 on deep attempts through his first, I think, 4 games. You can't win games like that. You can't get balls to Jamar Chase like that. If that deep ball is working and you're getting goes to T. Higgins and the Jamar Chase, then this deep offense becomes very difficult to stop, especially when Buffalo's missing key players in the secondary. That, to me, is the X factor here. We'll wrap it up with the Chargers and the Jets. The smart money's probably going to come in on the Jets here at +3, just because the Chargers are one of those teams where the only predictability for the Chargers is unpredictability. But I like the under in this game. We'll talk more about it on Monday when I do that standalone video. But I like the under in this spot. 41.5 seems a little bit high to me. I know the Chargers defense is soft, but it's still Zach Wilson. Yeah, it's a Breece Hall game. We might look towards some overs on those rushing props. But I still think so long as Zach Wilson is under center, you're looking at low-scoring games. But this defense, you got Sauce Gardner back. You got DJ Reed back. It's still a very, very talented defense. Look, I get how bad the Giants are, but the Jets held them to absolutely nothing last week. They don't need to hold the Chargers to nothing. They just need to slow them down. and they've performed well against good offenses this season. The defense is healthy. Give me under 41.5 in this game. I think it could come down. It's a spot I absolutely love. Hey, appreciate you guys watching. As always, good luck this week. We'll catch you back here for the next one. I'll be here standalone Thursday and Monday Night Football videos as well, right here on the Odd Shopper channel. Peace.